Hey there, I'm Asha Junot, and you're listening to This Hope Podcast. You being here is no small thing, and my hope is to fill your ears and your heart with words that invite us to lean in, stretch out our arms, and take hold of what will satisfy our souls. Wherever you are, wonder, connection, and hope are within reach. Come and see. Hello, and welcome to another episode of This Hope Podcast. What a wild thing it is to be a human in this world, huh? We have almost zero control over anything. Suffering abounds, and the only certainty is death. How's that for an intro? Are you filled with hope yet? Did you just check your phone to see if you accidentally clicked on the wrong podcast? Nope, you are in the right place. I just wanted to start by laying out the facts of this world. The calling card of the world in which we live is death. Everything started moving toward certain death the moment sin entered in and humankind was separated from God, separated from our source of life. Because in direct opposition to the world, the calling card of God is life. Everything God does moves us toward life. Abundant life, everlasting life, eternal life. Which honestly sounds like hell if it's life as we know it on this earth, but no. Life as God intended. The life God offers is life overflowing with hope and joy and peace and love. The life God offers, the life that God intended, is life with no sadness, sickness, hurt, disappointment, anxiety, or dread, no suffering. It's hard to even comprehend because all we know on this earth is suffering. Suffering is the byproduct of sin. Suffering is the byproduct of being separated from God. There is no goodness or life apart from connection with God. And you may say, well, I don't believe in God and I have goodness in my life. I absolutely believe you. And I absolutely know that the things about your life that are good are gifts from God, meant to give you glimpses of His goodness, to draw your heart back to its home and your soul back to its source. The world is out to crush us with suffering until we have nowhere to go but to the grave. This world and everything in it is headed toward certain death. But God. But God, in His infinite, incomprehensible kindness, took what is most certain in this world, what is inevitable in every human life, suffering, and uses it to bring us all the way to life. God takes what the world hopes will kill us and uses it to bring us to life. God does not cause suffering to happen. Suffering is the natural consequence of sin and separation from God. But God is so sovereign and so far above and beyond any limitations that He has rewired and rewritten and rerouted every awful bit of suffering. From the smallest inconvenience to the most monumental tragedy, to bring life from death. Life. Glorious life. Glory is one of my most favorite words. And that's saying a lot because I really love words. Glory is a word that kind of feels like water. It's so big and vast and hard to contain. It's like water slipping through our hands. But when I boil it down, you like how I'm keeping with the water metaphor there with the boil it down? Mm-hmm. When I boil it down, glory is what is most beautiful and most true about you. What is most beautiful and most true about something. It's what's most praiseworthy. That's why glory, the word glory, is used in two different ways. One, to talk about someone or something's glory, or to talk about giving someone or something glory. It's because our glory is what's most deserving of glory, if that makes sense. Someone or something's glory is its essence, its pure essence, its splendor, its substance, what is most beautiful and most true. Your glory is you at your most alive. And if we turn to God, what we think will kill us will bring us all the way to life. If we turn to God, our inevitable suffering will bring out our inherent glory. If we turn to God, our inevitable suffering will bring out our inherent glory, what is most beautiful and most true about us. And our first response is probably, why? Can't we just go around the suffering and get to the glory? And the hard truth is, no. And it's not because God is unmoving. It's because sin is. Sin and suffering, and ultimately death. It's the only certain thing in this world. It is inescapable. And because God is so kind and so wise and so powerful and so creative, because God is first and foremost creator, because of his goodness and faithfulness, he is using what is inevitable and inescapable to get us to our glory. The world will shake, rattle, and roll us around until the day we die. But think of God's kindness as a rock tumbler, harnessing the suffering to tumble us to glory. In a rock tumbler, stones are tumbled around and around and around and around until they are polished and shined to perfection. Sometimes this process can take weeks or even months of tumbling and tumbling. But when it's over and you open it up, what you get after all that tumbling is a beautiful gemstone. The rock's true beauty, its essence, its glory What is most beautiful and most true about it is revealed only after it has been tumbled and tumbled and tumbled, and so it is with us. There is no doubt that this world has the capacity to completely crush us. But when we turn to God, we will not be crushed by suffering, but instead tumbled to glory. Our suffering can either crush us or bring out what is most beautiful and most true about us. I can say this with full confidence because I have lived it. In the 70 months we waited and hoped for a baby of our own, there were absolutely times I thought I would not live to see another day. I thought the heartache and the grief would absolutely kill me. I did not see any light. I did not see any good. I did not think I would make it, friends. And I am not exaggerating. But here I sit, on the other side of the tumbling, more fully myself, more fully alive than I have ever been. More full of hope, more of who God made me to be. I am living in my glory. And I say that with nothing but humility and holy confidence because I would not be here if I wasn't there first. There being in the suffering, there being the days I thought would kill me. I am more fully alive. I am experiencing more of what is most beautiful and most true about myself because of the suffering. If we turn to God, what we think will kill us will be used to bring us all the way to life. Suffering to glory is what only God can do. As we wrap up, I want to take a minute to talk about abuse. Whenever I talk about suffering, and especially when I talk about suffering being used to bring about glory, I always want to stop and say that God does not want you to stay in an abusive situation. Will He redeem your story and bring glory from what you have suffered? Absolutely yes. Does He want you to remain in that suffering? Absolutely not. There is suffering that is inescapable, whether it's infertility or cancer or death of a loved one. And I know that this is a nuanced conversation and it's not always this easy, but abuse is not an inescapable suffering. And God will never call you to stay in an abusive situation, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical. Please get out and get help. And know that God in His kindness will never waste an ounce of the suffering that you walked through, but He never wants anyone to stay in the suffering of abuse. When we turn to God, what we think will kill us will bring us all the way to life. When we turn to God, our suffering will bring out our glory. Today's the day, friend. This Hope podcast is a series on the Wellspring Pensacola podcast. You can expect new episodes right here on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Tuesdays of every month. If you'd like to connect in between, you can find me on Instagram at Asha Junot, that's ASHAJUNEOH, or at ashajuno.com. Until next time, sending you hugs and hope.